We got UNLV back in action, taking on Miami, Ohio on the road. It's a 10 a.m. Mountain Time game on ESPNU. Last time we saw UNLV before their bye week handled UCLA rather well, even avoided a huge comeback from the Bruins and Nico there back in Vegas. Now they go on the road, take on Miami, Ohio, 0-2 on the season. You know, the Redhawks started their season 17-0 loss to Wisconsin, along with the 45-17 loss to Rutgers. You know, they have not looked good thus far this season. DeQuan Finn is their quarterback. He's 0 for 3 on the year. No touchdowns coming through the air. He is mobile. He has almost 100 yards and a rushing touchdown thus far, but, you know, of course, against stiff competition. Surprisingly enough, UNLV enters this game only 2.5-point favorites. The over on this game is 49.5. It seems like, I don't know what they're seeing in this Redhawks team to believe that they're really going to compete with UNLV, but the way UNLV's been the last 3 weeks, I don't see this game being very close. Anthony Calandra's playing his best football right now. UNLV defense has tightened up tremendously. You know, Jayden Thomas is having his way with the running game. It seems like this Rebels team's just firing on all cylinders right now. I don't see many teams of this caliber competing against them. You know, judging off of UNLV's schedule this far, you know, we've shown that Sam Houston State's a pretty good team. Idaho State's been playing really good football competitively. UCLA, probably the biggest disappointment of them all, still came on strong late in the second half 2 weeks ago. Really challenged UNLV, almost forcing an overtime in that game. You know, UNLV currently sits as the only undefeated team in the Mountain West, one of the few unbeaten teams in the country right now. I just don't think that they take their L against Miami, Ohio on the road. Not an 0-2 Redhawks team that's no signs that they can compete against UNLV, especially for what we've seen from Anthony Calandra thus far. He's improved every game and he's gotten, you know, more dynamic with his running ability, throwing the ball. They've, you know, been syncing well with the receivers. I just don't see how Miami, Ohio stops this quarterback and that running game in particular. Defensively, I don't know how many points they're going to score against that UNLV Rebels defense that's been stingy thus far. I think Dan Mullen has the Rebels playing good football right now. I think they continue it on. I don't see this game being close. I mean, 2+ touchdown type of game. I don't know what the sports bankers are seeing in this Miami team right now, but I don't see it being that close. Even if, you know, UNLV's on the road, I just don't know what they're going to do to limit the Rebels in any capacity. And I think they have their way. I think it's a high-scoring game for UNLV and really get them out of there early. It's a 10 a.m. Mountain Time game on ESPNU. UNLV going on the road to take Miami, Ohio. Be sure to check this one out. Could we see San Jose State's first win of the season this week? I'm pretty sure. San Jose State takes on Idaho. It's a 3 p.m. Mountain Time game on the Mountain West Network. You know, San Jose State just hasn't really looked as good as I had hoped they would entering this season. I didn't expect them to go down to Central Michigan week 1. People didn't expect for them to win against Texas, but they really didn't put up much of a fight besides the first drive. Now 0-2 on the season. You come back home, you got a FCS challenge in Idaho. That's 2-1, by the way. You know, you don't take them lightly, and you hopefully have tightened up some of your mistakes from earlier in the season and really just go out there and play sound football. be decisive and really control this game and really just put on a show and look good to get your first win of the season. I didn't expect Walker Eaket to be a turnover machine right now, but he's got 3 interceptions, 2 touchdowns on the season, pretty much non-existent play against Texas, which definitely not too much to fault for him there, but we expected more from the Central Michigan game to start their season. He has a couple of touchdowns, a couple of interceptions that game, and really they struggled. A Central Michigan team that got destroyed just last week, 63-3 against Michigan. Looking back at it, we don't really have too much to go on. Throw the Texas game out the window. That's an anomaly on itself. But Central Michigan game, they really looked rough, and we could maybe say that Central Michigan was preparing all offseason for San Jose State and what they're going to bring to the table. But now this is the game to get your win, put on a ton of points on the scoreboard, and look defensively sound. FCS teams have given Mountain West some trouble thus far in the season. Definitely not a team to be taken lightly, no matter what division they're in, what conference. Idaho's 2-1 on the season. They only suffered a 13-10 loss at Washington State to start their season, and from there they've won the last 2 games, beating St. Thomas and Utah Tech. They've looked pretty good doing it. Quarterback Joshua Wood, he's got 4 touchdowns, 1 interception on the season, 433 yards passing. Their running game is their strong suit. The quarterbacks had 273 yards and 2 touchdowns running the ball. Art Williams is decent running back. He's got 226 yards on the season, touchdown there. They're going to look to, be physical, have their way on the running game to open up some passing. San Jose State's going to have to do their best to shut that down early and, not let them build up some confidence and let them stick around. I'm hesitant to say this will be an easy game for San Jose State, although it should be. I think they're going to have their first win to, prove to everyone that they are very much a team to look for in the Mountain West play later half of this season. It's Idaho taking on San Jose State. It's a 3 p.m. Mountain Time game on the Mountain West Network. Be sure to check this one out. Call me crazy, but does this game get out of hand early on and stay that way? We got Western Kentucky taking on Nevada. Nevada going on the road after a disappointing, devastating defeat last week against Middle Tennessee in the final minutes of that game. It's a 5 p.m. Mountain Time game on ESPN+. Nevada's just looks sorry, to say the least. It's nothing's gone their way. Barely won against Sacramento State. They take a loss to Middle Tennessee in the final minutes. Western Kentucky's 2-1 on the season, and they are known for having explosive offense that likes to put up a lot of points. Western Kentucky opens up at 10.5 point favorites. The over/under on this game is 55.5. It could be a high scoring game. Chubb Purdy has been spotty. The offense entirely has been spotty. Defensively, you would say they've looked good at times, but it's just seeming like a bad football team all around. Western Kentucky, talk about high scoring offense. The quarterback, McIver, 10 touchdowns on the season. They're really going to have their way and air raid it, throw it up in the air, put up a lot of yards, get in the end zone. Even if Nevada is able to limit that defensively, what can they do on the offensive side of the ball? Getting in the end zone is their biggest problem on the season. I think it's safe to say that they rely on Chuba Purdy's running ability more so than his passing. He's 1 for 4 on the year, touchdowns to interception ratio. He's a proven solid dual threat quarterback, but against a team like this, do you expect to win out running the ball? Maybe they do look to get the running game going early and control possession against a Western Kentucky team that can score at will at times. I don't see Nevada limiting the Hilltoppers to any less than 4 or 5 touchdowns in this game. I just see them being effective in the passing game. I don't know if Nevada can match that. They haven't shown that they can match it thus far in the season. If they were ever looking to figure it out, I don't know if this is the game to do it. I think the Hilltoppers have their way with the Wolfpack early, and pull away with a large victory in this one. The only thing that Nevada's shown us this season that we can guarantee is that they are unreliable in finishing games. It does not help that they're not much of a turnover-prone team on the defensive side, so they may get some stops here and there, but you can't expect this defense to really bail out the offense and give them great position every time. Jonathan Maldonado is the lone defensive guy with an interception on the season. I just don't see them limiting the Hilltoppers in any way. Maverick McIver, 10 touchdowns going into this game. He may finish this game with 15 touchdowns on the year, because I just see them tearing apart this Nevada secondary. We're gonna tell if Nevada loses this game as badly as I think they might. I don't know how you recover this season. Do you make a quarterback switch? I don't know if a quarterback switch would do much, but this will definitely tell what the Wolfpack have in their arsenal, what they'll be able to hopefully accomplish later on in the season. They cannot get blown out in this game. Hopefully they stay competitive. They don't have to win it, but they have to stay competitive throughout. Hopefully they just don't let the Hilltoppers pull away with a huge large scoring victory against them still early in the season. It's a 5 p.m. Mountain Time game on ESPN+. Nevada goes on the road to take on Western Kentucky. Be sure to check this one out. For the second straight week in a row, we got Air Force in a conference matchup, this time hosting Boise State, who was in a bye last week. Boise State's looking for their first solid win against quality competition, and it could come this week against Air Force, but Air Force was competitive in defeat last week to Utah State. I think they come back now at home and give Boise State a run for their money. This is a 10.5 point spread favoring Boise State. The over-under on this game is 51.5. If it's a close matchup, I don't think it's really indicative on Boise State as much as it is on Air Force just being competitive in conference play as usual. Boise State's looking for a really good win. They want to prove that that week 1 loss against South Florida was a fluke, 31-7 fluke. They want to prove that they're still one of the best teams in the country, certainly Mountain West favorites. Maddox Madsen looked good in their win 2 weeks ago. Now he's going to take on a challenging Air Force defense that also will give him limited possessions since they run the ball, and they're going to run that clock down, and they're going to grind it out, getting into the end zone a couple times. This is a game where, Madsen may try to show his athletic ability. I think I'd prefer him to stay in the pocket and really find his guys. Rely on Dylan Riley, rely on Sire Gangs to open up the passing game a little bit more with their running, and then find your guys. Find Chris Marshall, find Ben Ford. Get your guys the ball, and let them work and put up big numbers. I believe Boise State has it in them to have a Utah State type of day. They could separate early from Air Force. And I would still like to think that Boise State's defense is a little more stout than what we've seen from Utah State. So they could very well likely find a way to limit the Falcons' running game to the best of their ability. And from there, it's just about putting points on the board. And I think Boise State will have an effective day running the ball. The last time these teams met up, it was a closer game. I think Air Force is just one of those teams they're not going to let up. Even in that loss last week, they didn't go anywhere. They scored pretty much match for match against Utah State. They let the Aggies get away from them early, but when they came roaring back, they weren't going anywhere through the end. I would not be surprised if they could give the Broncos trouble. I certainly wouldn't suggest that Boise State lets them stick around too long, because if they do, things could get ugly in the final quarter. I'm hesitant to say this is a high-scoring game because the Falcons are going to take off a chunk of that clock every single possession they have. Boise State defense taking on that Falcons running game. See who wins out that. I have no doubt that Matson in the offense is going to score pretty effectively, but it's just going to be how many touches do they get in the wake of the Falcons triple option. I like to think that they've tightened up some of their mistakes from the past couple of weeks and really look to make a statement, especially on the road. I like to think that the Broncos have took that bye week and refocused, got healthy, and are ready to put on a great performance as they start conference play and try to make this Falcons team look like they're not on their level. It's definitely an interesting game. It's a great matchup, prime time. It's a 5 p.m. Mountain Time game on the CBS Sportsnet. Boise State going on the road to take on Air Force. Be sure to check it out. Well, we got McNeese going on to take on Utah State. It's a 6 p.m. Mountain Time game on the Mountain West Network. Utah State, as impressive as they looked against Air Force last week, made it a game that was not close. Come back home and really just have their way, offensively, defensively. Put up a ton of stats early and hopefully get Bryson Barnes out of there in the first half. McNeese is 1-2 on the season. They've looked decent at times. Jake Strong's their quarterback. He's 5 for 3 on the season, touchdown interception ratio. They're a team that can run the ball pretty decent, but I don't think they're going to get much slack from this Aggies defense. Offensively, we've already seen what they can do against Air Force. They're going to have their way with the Cowboys and really put on a show. Bronco, the past couple of seasons, when he's proven that he can put up some points, his offenses do not slack on that. Now it's just time to have a good beatdown type of game. A game that's not close from the start to the finish. Put up a ton of stats. Get your guys going. Get them motivated before they really dive into this conference schedule. Thus far, Utah State's had a pretty decent competitive schedule through the first 3 games. Now it's time to not step off the gas pedal, but just ease into it. Run some schemes that they've been looking to try out. Get everyone in the game is the goal. put up, however many 4, 5, 6 touchdowns before halftime, and in the second half it's mop up duty, and you ride into week 5 3-1 on the season. I will say McNeese thus far has proven that they could put up some points, and of course shouldn't be taken lightly. Their last 3 games, a 54-9 win, 34-10 loss against Louisiana Monroe, and a 42-41 loss against Weber State a week ago. A team still very much out of Utah State's league. Look for John Miller to have his day. Can he get a couple of sacks against Jake Strong and this McNeese offense? Really just pressure them and ensure that they don't get anywhere near scoring position. I think it's just a great game to build confidence for Utah State before they really dive into the conference play. It's a 6 p.m. Mountain Time game on the Mountain West Network. McNeese versus Utah State. Be sure to check that one out. We got UTSA going on the road to take on Colorado State. It's a 7:30 Mountain Time game on FS1. It seems like things have cooled off for Colorado State the past couple of weeks. Their last outing was that very controversial win over Northern Colorado, basically erasing a touchdown, the go-ahead touchdown for Northern Colorado. It's in the past. They got UTSA this weekend. They open up 4.5-point underdogs against UTSA. It's a 59.5 over-under. It feels like Colorado State needs a type of win to put that play, their last outing, in the rearview mirrors. Braden Fowler Nicolosi has not looked as I think a lot of people expected him to look going into this season. He's got 1 passing touchdown, 2 interceptions on the year. Particularly that Northern Colorado game did not look good at all. They've relied on the running game the way they did last year. And this Rams team is going to go up against Owen McCown, son of former NFL player Josh McCown, and he's looked decent in his career at UTSA. 3,400 yards, 25 touchdowns last season. He enters this season, he's got 578 yards, 6 touchdowns, no interceptions. UTSA has played a relatively decent football. They opened their season at Texas A&M, lost 42-24 there. They lose to Texas State 43-36, and they get their first win of the season last week, 48-20. They're a team that seems about on par with what Colorado State has going for them, so far this season. I could see it being a close matchup. I think it's been the lack of offense and lack of overall competition that the Rams have put forward that would lead them to be underdogs going into this game at home. Defensively, they have not been what they were last season. Offensively, they've been sort of abysmal. They've certainly relied on the running game, and I was hoping that Fowler Nicolosi would have really put on this season to prove that he's one of the best passers in the conference, and fitting of all the hype that they supposedly had the past 2 years really. This is a game I have going either way, just because Colorado State's at home, looking to prove themselves after their last game. I can see them tightening some things up and getting back to playing some sound football. Utah State has been in some real battles early on, and they're going to come to compete. I would say that their offense looks a little more reliable going in this week, and their quarterback's definitely playing better football, and they could rely on him the way you may not feel so about Colorado State and Fowler Nicolosi. talk about the QB play, but I could see Robert Henry Jr. having a huge day against this Rams defense. They haven't been particularly good with the running game against teams. He's already got 480 yards, 6 touchdowns on the season. He's averaged 2 touchdowns a game. I don't see him slowing down anytime soon, not this week. I think they rely on the running game to really open up passing, and Henry Jr., if the Rams aren't ready, he could be running all over them all night long. I question what the Rams will be able to do to limit the Roadrunners. They're a team that has no interceptions on the season, 1 forced fumble thus far. They're not a team to get turnovers that we've seen through the first 2 games. Could UTSA really get them out of this? Can UTSA really get them out of this game early and really dominate from the start? This is a great indicator, great test for Colorado State to see just how competitive they're going to be the rest of the way, because if they come and can compete and pull off a win here against a rather underestimated UTSA team, it looks good and they'll be able to move forward. But if they lose badly at home, it's not going to look good going into conference play. Definitely an intriguing game to check out. It's a 7:30 Mountain Time game on FS1. We got UTSA going on the road to take on Colorado State. Be sure to check that out. I feel like this could be really fun to watch. Wyoming going on to take on Colorado. It's an 8:15 Mountain Time game on ESPN. It's a primetime matchup. Buffs have not looked like themselves the past 3 games this season. Wyoming has looked defensively sound, but offensively just cannot get in the end zone. I would say this turns out to be a defensive matchup. Colorado has not looked good offensively without Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders. Wyoming defense has been on par. Offensively are still figuring it out. I could very much likely see this game being a grind them out type of game. Solid defense. Both teams are going to look to establish the running game early on, and if they can get a pass in every now and again, it's going to be 2 teams running the ball, looking to establish momentum. Colorado is 12.5 point favorites. The over-under on this game is 44.5. I would not be surprised to see a close game. I'd not be surprised to see Wyoming really keeping themselves in this game defensively. Hopefully, finding an effective running game. Colorado just has not looked good. Defense has always been their weak side, and now you have a weak defense. A weak defense and an offense that trouble scoring, throwing the ball. It's gonna be interesting to see who they have at quarterback. Ryan Staub, after a good win against Delaware, looked horrible against Houston. It's gonna be interesting to see if they go back to Caton Salters for the start. If they go to Caton Salters, I think they have a better chance of winning. I think Wyoming would have an effective, day if Caden Anderson could utilize his mobility a little bit more. Colorado does horrible with a mobile quarterback. Their defensive lineups, I think it's a 5-2. No linebackers across the middle. Literally, they've been lit up the past couple of seasons against any quarterback that can run to any degree. If Jay Sawvell and his offensive coordinator could figure that out, they'd be able to run all over Colorado. utilizing Caden Anderson. Their passing game hasn't been horrible, but I think they're going to utilize Sam Scott a lot more. Power his way down the field against this Buff defense that has been just lacking consistent play at the linebacker position. Every game I've watched of Colorado this season, their linebackers have been out of position, and really the opposing offense has been able to get 5-8 yards out of pop. Hopefully Wyoming will be able to utilize that a little bit. I think this is just a close defensive game. I don't think either team puts up a lot of points. 44.5. I think it's gonna be a low-scoring game. Just what we've seen from Wyoming, they have had trouble to get in the end zone. In Colorado, lackluster themselves. I certainly see this being a closer matchup than 12.5 points. This may be a touchdown type of game if the Cowboys can keep up the momentum. Don't give up any easy big plays against Colorado. I'm not sure which way this swings because neither team has really set themselves apart this far this season. It's gonna be interesting, and it's a primetime game. It's a nice little nightcap for everyone on the West Coast. Wyoming going on the road to take on Colorado, 8:15 on ESPN. Be sure to check this one out. We got California going on the road to take on San Diego State. It's an 8:30 Mountain Time game on CBS Sportsnet. And we got California 3-0 on the season. They've looked rather impressive, but we got San Diego State 1-1 on the season. Had a bye last week. Looked great against Stony Brook. Looked horrible against Washington State. Everything they were able to do against Stony Brook offensively and defensively, shutting them out. They looked the opposite against Washington State. Could not score to save their lives. Jane Denigal didn't look too good. Passing game was not effective whatsoever. This week, can they get Lucky Sutton going? Can Denigal find more targets, get downfield, throwing the ball? California's looked rather impressive. 34-15 win against Oregon State, 35-3 win against Texas Southern, and last week 27-14 win against Minnesota. They've looked pretty good. Of course, this before ACC play, they've looked great in their non-conference schedule. We don't have too large of a sample size for the Aztecs, but one game looked great against FCS Talent. Looked horrible against Washington State. This week, 12.5 point underdogs. San Diego State is 48.5 over/under on this game. From what we've seen against Washington State, it wouldn't be surprising to see Cal do that to a worse degree. They've looked like a team that's sound offensively and defensively. I'm just gonna call him QB Jaron because of I don't want to butcher his last name, but he has looked incredibly well for a freshman. 6 touchdowns through the air, 1 interception on the season. He's been able to light teams up early on. The fact that they've been able to hold teams to just about 10 points per game. Will they give San Diego State trouble? I think they will. I'm not sold that the Aztecs are just gonna get rolled over on this game. I think it could be competitive. Definitely need to see improvement from 2 weeks ago. I'm concerned that San Diego State from last year will reappear and they could be in for a blowout loss at home. This Cal team is looking solid. They look to be one of the better teams in the ACC. I'm not sure if San Diego State wins this game. I'm not sure how close it is. The defense, which we said was going to be the strong suit coming into the season, got obliterated against Washington State, a passing team just like Cal. I could see it. I could see it getting ugly for the Aztecs early on, and not being able to do much offensively. A great game to end your day from a list of good matchups. It's Cal going on take on San Diego State, 8:30 Mountain Time on the CBS Sports Net. Be sure to check it out. Big surprise, we end our day. Fresno State going on to take on Hawaii. It's a 9:59 Mountain Time game. It's a game I believe should be on the Mountain West Network. I think this is the best matchup for Mountain West teams in Week 4. It's conference play. It's two teams 3-1 on top of the Mountain West early on, and I think we're gonna see a lot of great offense. It's gonna be who has the better defense. Fresno State has had some impressive wins on the season. Same about Hawaii. They both have had rather ugly defeats. One in the way of Kansas, the other in the way of Arizona. Fresno State finally appears to have their passing game figured out. E.J. Warner had a heck of a day in their blowout win against Southern. Meanwhile, Hawaii, second-string quarterback Luke Weaver has looked impressive. He's looked solid thus far in the last 2 starts he's had. They easily handled Portland State. This is a matchup I could see why it's 2.5 spread favoring Fresno State, 47.5 point over under. I see a close matchup. I'm hesitant to say who has the edge here. Fresno State would appear to look more competent, but I'm not sure. Hawaii, huge home field advantage. Fresno State, up until last weekend against FCS Talent, really could not get in the end zone throwing the ball. They've had effective running game. Hawaii's been more balanced. Defense, I believe, is a strong suit for them. They haven't really skipped a beat with Michael Alejado out with injury. I would like to believe that they go with Luke Weaver with the start here for such a important conference matchup. As we talk about E.J. Warner versus Luke Weaver, I think it's going to come down to Bryson Donaldson versus Luke Sims. I think the running game is going to be impactful in this matchup. Who's going to find their way running the ball better? In a similar way that I felt Wyoming and Colorado game was going to be sort of a grind them out defensive run heavy type of game. I feel that way about this Fresno State Hawaii game. Both teams are known for passing. Both more so Hawaii has been more effective passing the ball. Fresno State's been effective up until the point of when it comes down to scoring. I think they're going to rely on the running game much more. Rely on their defense to make some stops, maybe some turnovers. And it's going to be a close game. It's a toss-up game in my opinion. I think I would favor Hawaii. Home field advantage. Have looked a little more balanced. A stout defense. A team that Hawaii hasn't really let anyone do too much on them passing the ball. I think Fresno State needs that. I think they need that in this type of game to win. Either way, I think we're going to be in for some great football in this matchup. Great way to end Week 4 of Mountain West play. Definitely a game to stay up and watch through the late hours. Fresno State goes on the road to take on Hawaii. It's a 9:59 Mountain Time game, I believe, on the Mountain West Network. Be sure to check this one out.